Alright, hello everybody and welcome to another match of Ro64 Tournament. We are finally getting into another match after a short little break, but we're finally back and we're going to be starting off with Nudragon versus ElSweetSlime. A very interesting match, which had some very close seedings as well. So definitely not a match to kind of look over. But alongside this match, we also have Babjetka versus Leo. So two matches going on at the same time. And unfortunately, we did have a win by default for Erie. But with that, we can move on to the roles now. And we finally have covers for each of those maps. So you no longer have to look at plain boring backgrounds. You now have each of your mod indicators. But we're kind of getting into these roles now, and honestly, seeing these players, it's gonna be interesting to see what's chosen. I mean, ElSweetSlime having very proficient SV skills. So here we go. I mean, let's take a look at stats. I mean, I believe ElSweetSlime had a third place on SV. But it looks like ElSweetSlime will be finishing the role. We are going to see what they decide. So they decide to go for the first ban. A very interesting choice, but I guess it kind of leaves a lot of room for interpretation of what might be a good ban, what might be a good protect. There's so much to kind of look over when kind of just going through each of these maps. So currently waiting for the protect, but let's take a look at stats. And looking at the stats, I mean, ElSweetSlime, a second place on SV, and around the 30s range for the easier maps, and going into the 50s range for some of the harder maps. So definitely being a little bit on the more early accuracy side. And looking at Nudragon, I mean, they're generally very well-rounded. I mean, these players are so close in terms of who's kind of in the... They're really close in terms of stats. It's just SV really helps ElSweetSlime. So SV is definitely going to be a pick that ElSweetSlime capitalizes on. But I think in general, these players are so well-rounded. But we are moving into the ban. ElSweetSlime's going to be able to ban. And we see LN2 being banned. A pretty popular ban amongst the players. Which is honestly really interesting to me. I mean, I would think that LN1 or LN3 is banned. But we are moving on to Nudragon's ban. I mean, what can you ban? LN1? That's an interesting ban, but it is their choice, and I guess to a degree it does make a little bit of sense. But it is now ElSweetSlime's pick. Gonna be an interesting choice, but I could very easily see them choosing SV. moving on, I mean, probably SV, but to be on the safer side, we could also see maybe LN3 or maybe one of the first two rice maps. I think technicality is probably something ElSweetSlime's gonna want to avoid. I mean, especially the harder maps. But we see Rice 4! What an interesting pick. But we are going for the next Rice map. Honestly, this is a pretty big surprise. I would think this is something Nudragon would want to choose. But we are moving on to this pick. I mean, I would think this is a pick Nudragon chooses, mainly because it is kind of physical in a sense. I mean, you have these bursts that kind of go on for a little bit long. But here we go, moving on to Flamingo, our mixed rice map. Gonna be interesting to see how both these pairs perform, especially on a map like this, which does require a little bit of physicality. I mean, compared to some of these other maps, I would say this, Rice 5, maybe even Rice 2 are probably the most physical Rice picks. But here we go. We will be starting very shortly now. And here we go, we're finally loading into our first map. It's going to be very interesting to see how both these pairs perform. I mean, if ElSweetSlime can take this point, I mean, this opens the door for so many different other picks. I mean, so far it looks like Nudragon has a little bit of an advantage right now. But things could very easily change, especially as we do kind of get into the burst. I mean, these bursts can be very tricky for everyone, even for higher seed players. Just because they can be a little bit awkward and they do come pretty unexpectedly and fast as well. But as we do get into a little bit of a calmer section, Nudragon still holding that lead. Definitely not something ElSweetSlime's gonna want. I mean, it's a pick that I did say was very risky for ElSweetSlime. I mean, especially because this, in a sense, could be considered a little bit technical just because of the burst. While not really the tech map, it still contains very tricky parts to it. And those parts could very easily shape up how a match goes. But we'll have to see, especially as we do get into the more latter part of this map. I mean, this map does get a little bit harder as time goes on. But as we do get into a little bit more angry jacks, both these players still handling it with a lot of care. I mean, both players are still F-ing. I mean, it's what you expect for a very early round. But in a map like this, you could very easily see either player just choking just because of how long it is. I mean, stamina might not be the biggest factor compared to some other maps, but still, this map is very tricky to hold accuracy on. As we do get into a little bit of an easier section with a bit of a jump emphasis. I mean, ElSweetSlime's definitely taking a lot of damage in a map like this. We'll have to see what they decide to kind of go for their next pick. And both players getting a miss throughout this map. Definitely gonna kind of spell out what to kind of expect, but for now, it does look like it is going to go towards Nudragon. With that, I mean, there's not much you can do about this pick. I mean, it is quite lengthy. Each of these misses will be costing so much. This conclude race 4, going toward Nudragon, a breakpoint as well. Definitely going to be interesting to see how, I mean, both these players perform going on. I mean, it does look like Nudragon has a little bit of an advantage.
How many shrimps do you have to eat before you make your skin turn pink? Eat too much and you'll get sick. Shrimps are pretty.
We are moving to Nudragon's pick. I mean, if I were them, I would go for another Rice Map. Yeah, Rice 5. I mean, a pretty good pick coming from them. A bit more stamina intensive as well. We are currently waiting for these players to load in. But here we go, we are moving on to Rice 5, our stamina pick. I mean, this could very easily go in Nudragon's favor, especially seeing how things gone. Looks like we'll be seeing an abort though. As we wait for this person to get back in. So I'm not sure what happened as we wait. Currently waiting. Unsure what happened, but... Oh, there we go. Looks like we did see some internet issues. Always lovely to see. But we can finally move on to this pick, hopefully. Here we go. We are starting this match now. After some slight issues, we should be good now. But here we go. Went into Rice 5, our stamina pick, Wings of a Duck. We would decline to load. But as I've been saying, this is a pick that I do think could easily go towards Nudragon's favor just because, I mean, we've seen physicality-wise, it seems Nudragon is just a little bit stronger. I mean, SV definitely helping ElSweetSlime, but in a pick like this, I mean, you can't do much with SV skills. I mean, so far both these players are handling it very well. I mean, Nudragon with a pretty strong lead already, especially as we are climbing into that 400 combo cap. I mean, you see these bursts come in, which could cause a little bit of trouble. I mean, especially with ElSweetSlime playing on a little bit of a lower scroll speed, it could cause a little bit of trouble depending on their comfortability with reading these patterns. I mean, both these players so strong. I mean, I think a miss coming from Nudragon could potentially shake it off to ElSweetSlime, but as the client does freeze ever so slightly. I mean, both these players are performing so well. It's just a matter of accuracy, but it doesn't look like either of these players are going to be slowing down either way. But as we do get into some of the harder sections of this map, we could potentially see that change, and potentially the lead could go towards ElSweetSlime, depending on how both these players perform. I mean, so far you do get more basic patterns, kind of average jump string with some bursts in between, but it's nothing too crazy. I mean, it looks like the accuracies could very well change if we see a drop coming from Nudragon. I mean, the lead is only by about 4,000, which isn't really that much, all things considered. And as we do move on, we are slowly approaching the hard part of this map, and here we go. Slow build up, but it will be surely coming. And we'll have to see if either of these players do miss though. I mean, with a map like this, it could be very easy to choke. And here we go. Into the hard part. Let's see how these players do. As the map does get a lot more denser, both players are still handling it very, very well. It doesn't look like this is going to stop them, especially as the map becomes more dense and a little bit more trilly, but it does look like Nudragon gonna take that second point, and it is now ElSweetSlime's pick. And two good scores. I mean, the ratio not even being that far apart. It's just kind of a matter of who's able to kind of play this more comfortably, and Nudragon will be taking that. But with this being the next pick, I could very well see SV being chosen. And there we go, we see SV being chosen. A pretty popular pick somewhat. I mean, we've been seeing this a little often. So we are surely getting into this pick now. And here we go, moving on to this pick. We're gonna have to see how it does fare for both these players. I mean, ElSweetSlime probably having a really big advantage just because of their ability to play SV at a really high level. But we will have to see. I'm starting off this huge difference in accuracy from both of these players. Ooh, that drop from ElSweetSlime. Alright, so we did get into this part. Some of the slow jams coming in could potentially mess up either of these players. We'll have to see. As a teleport is incoming with these stutters. That teleport getting Nudragon. But as we do get into this part, full with so many different slow jams, you do have to be really careful. And here we go, starting to see a lot more stutters, a lot more slow jams being pretty intrusive as well, especially with these LNs. Could be very tricky to hold a good accuracy. I mean, ElSweetSlime destroying this map with a 99.3. The Nudragon not doing too bad either, but definitely a huge difference in terms of accuracy. You can definitely tell. But we'll have to see how this second half of the map fares for both these players. I mean, it is so tricky to hold a good accuracy throughout. I mean, ElSweetSlime just starting to gain more accuracy as well as the map goes on. I mean, same with Nudragon, but holding a 99.4 and still gaining, especially with this ending, is so impressive. But here we go, as we are almost near the end, we do get this delayed section with some teleports coming in here with slow jam. We definitely have to be very careful, but it does look like ElSweetSlime is going to be able to take this point, get their first point with this match. Definitely causing a little bit of a disruption in terms of the flow of this match. I mean, definitely always good to see. It's always boring to watch a sweep, but ElSweetSlime was only 6 grades and a better ratio as well. Very good score, but also a good score coming from Nudragon as well. But we can move on to Nudragon's pick now. Oh, we're gonna see Rice 2 being chosen. A pretty interesting pick, but I do think it makes a bit of sense. Let's see the Junction Mansion pick being chosen. And the other match for Bakjetka versus Leo is going to be over with a 4-1 in favor of Bakjetka. So that does include one match, but we still have this match going on. Really waiting for these players to get in though. Waiting for, looks like Nudragon to download the map. But as we wait, looks like we'll be surely getting into this as both players do re-download the map. So it looks like we are having some slight issues on the player side in terms of downloading map, so we might switch the map. So we are going to be moving on to a different pick, just for the sake of keeping the flow of this match. So we will be moving to LN3, our technical LN pick. An interesting choice, as we haven't seen any of the LNs or hybrids chosen, so this could very well go to either side.
I throw the body to this world, and let's feel musical. In the world, what did you find? You are surely found.
But here we go, moving on to Soul Explosion. Or more technical LN, but it's gonna be very interesting to see how this goes. I mean, both players banned an LN after all. I mean, this isn't the most physical LN, but it definitely is a little bit faster compared to LN1, so who it goes to is really dependent, but seeing how the match has gone, it does look a little bit in favor of Nudragon, but starting off, ElSweetSlime is going to have a bit of an early lead.
In the world, what did you find? You are surely found. Countdown.
And as we do get into the main part of this map, Nudragon going to be dropping a little bit of accuracy, and ElSweetSlime going to be holding relatively good accuracy with a near 99.7. That actually dropping so much in the matter of a second. I mean, was Ellen a good ban from ElSweetSlime very early on? I mean, seeing how things are going now, it could be just a bit of a risky pick in general to choose Ellen. I mean, their scores are still really close, despite how much it might not look like it. I mean, Nudragon dropping to that near 90, high 98 range. And ElSweetSlime still dropping accuracy, but not as much. It's so hard to tell who's gonna take this. I mean, if... Oh, we see a miss coming from ElSweetSlime, though. That's definitely gonna cause so much damage, especially if we don't see a miss from Nudragon. Nudragon is still holding combo, but that accuracy is still being relatively low. And it could definitely cause a lot of damage, though. And easily shifted over towards ElSweetSlime, but we'll have to kind of see how this does fare. I mean, ElSweetSlime holding a little bit of better accuracy, but not by much. All it does is take one miss, but I don't think there's enough time for it to change, unless we see a lot of misses coming at the very end. But that was so unlikely, and it will go towards Nudragon. It's a 965, good scores from both players, but unfortunately that miss costing ElSweetSlime just that 1 point it looked like. And that does bring the match to match point. Meaning that Nudragon only needs 1 point, but ElSweetSlime's gonna have to work really hard on these next 2 picks if they want to bring it to tiebreaker and potentially make it to the next match in the winners bracket. I mean, looking at the picks, what can you pick? I mean, you definitely don't want to go for a rice pick. I mean, these rice picks are very risky. But it looks like we're going to be seeing Hybrid 1, our Jack Hybrid. And as we wait, here we go. Hybrid 1, gonna be an interesting choice from ElSweetSlime. I mean, it is a very nice and short pick. It could potentially go in their favor. As we wait for both these picks to ready up. I mean, this pick is just a little under 130. As we wait for these picks ready up. I mean, this is very easily able to go either side. I mean, especially for its length. One miss, it's gonna cost almost anything. Especially for a map where its main focus is throughout the entirety. I mean, you never really catch a break with a map like this. But here we go, we are moving on to Hybrid 1. Very nice and short pick, but let's see how this goes. I mean, especially for ElSweetSlime, this is going to be a very crucial pick. But as we do get on very, very slightly for ElSweetSlime, but it is nothing too crazy. I mean, ElSweetSlime with a near 99.9. I mean, it is fluctuating, but if ElSweetSlime can keep this up, they might be able to bring this to 3-2 and potentially bring it to tiebreaker if they keep holding this consistency that they have right now, especially on such a short pick as we're already halfway through it. And here we go into the harder part of the map. We're gonna have to see how both these players do. ElSweetSlime holding such a huge accuracy advantage, but are they gonna be able to hold this FC? This is the real question. And they get a drop. It might just be over for them. There's so little time to miss, and Nudragon is still holding that combo. That miss costing so much to them. Even with that higher accuracy, it's just going to go towards Nudragon. Nudragon will take this final point, bringing them into the winners round of 32. And ElSweetSlime is going to be knocked into the losers round of 32. But with that, concludes the match. A very, very interesting match. I mean, some of these were very, very close. But that does mean this stream is going to end now. But with this stream being over, we do have, I believe, 2 more. We have Mateo versus Huawei coming in 22 minutes, and right an hour after that is going to be Reagan Bro versus Abstract Apple. So stay tuned for those matches. And this match, Vectreca versus Leo with a 4-0. So stay tuned in 22 minutes as we will be starting Mateo versus Huawei. I'm your commentator Znow, and I will be seeing you in the next match.